So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Talks with Pops podcast. I have a super special guest today. I have so many accolades to give him. Right, he's a podcaster, he's a photographer, he's a dad, he's a veteran, he's my mentor in this podcast game. He's actually the first person that ever invited me to a podcast and actually got me going, and a really good friend of mine. And without further ado, I want to introduce my friend Miguel Saenz. Welcome to the Talks with Pop podcast.
Well, what an introduction there. I don't even know what to say. Mentor, I don't know because you're more of a mentor to me than I am of you, but I appreciate it. And thank you very much for bringing me onto your podcast.
No, it's a pleasure for me. And we all play different parts at different times, right? So yeah, definitely in the Marine Corps, I could consider myself your mentor, but in this podcast game, you've definitely given me a lot of jewels. You've definitely, introduced me to a lot of different things that I didn't know about. So for me, you are my mentor. You are the person who's actually helped me on my journey to this podcasting game. And just through listening to your podcast, I have definitely gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, that I tried myself in my podcast. So for sure, for me in this game, you're definitely my mentor.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. Like I always say, as a student, I guess I surpassed my mentor, but I couldn't have gotten there without everything that I learned from you along the
And,
way. So,
and I appreciate, but I'm not gonna let you hijack it with praise for me because this is all about you. So I want to start with you at the beginning, right? I know a lot about you, but I just want to introduce you to my viewers, to people that listen to me on this podcast. Tell me a little bit about Miguel Saenz.
bueno, cuando yo nací era Miguel Sainz, nací en Ciudad Juárez. My bad, hang on. SAP.
Right.
My
Yeah,
SAP
yeah,
was messed up.
the English version. Y
Yeah,
hacemos el español después.
there you go. Well, I guess for me, I was born and raised in Ciudad Juarez in Mexico. So, I was born there and I didn't come to the United States till I was 5 years old. And my dad brought me out here. I grew up as an Army brat. I never took that against my dad growing up because he was in the Army, but I grew up there. And then when I graduated high school, it's just something that I noticed when I had the recruiter come down to my high school and I saw that the uniform.
Mhm.
You know which one I'm talking about, the dress
Yeah,
blue.
definitely. Yeah, the Blues, obviously. It's the only uniform you can be talking about.
Oh, yes. I saw the dress blue uniform,
Mhm.
and man, I won't say that I just fell in love with that, but you know what they say about the dress blues, man, you put them on, the panties drop. That's
Right,
just the way that's
right.
just the way that it is, and that's what kinda led me to coming into the Marine Corps. And, as a immigrant coming into this country, it's no greater honor for me to be able to be part of the services for this country that's giving me so many freedoms and all the rights that I have now because of people that came before me, and I just have to make sure that I fulfilled that legacy and continue to fill their shoes with
Right.
everything that I was doing now.
So what is the one thing that kind of pointed you, other than seeing the uniform, right? It had to be because most Marines that I talk to, I know for myself, I think it's always been a calling. Like uniform was just kind of a final invite, but I kind of always knew in the back of my mind that I was destined for something else, right? So what was it for you? I know I get it. I understand the uniform first attracted you, but it had to be something inside of you even before you saw the uniform that kind of was calling to you.
I think, well, for me, because I was in JROTC for the whole time since I was in junior high, all the way through high school. So I learned a lot about the military. Unfortunately, my high school only offered Army JROTC. So
Right.
I really didn't know too much. But what I did know was that when I went to the drill competitions, we saw the Marine JROTC units out there and
Mhm.
the discipline that they possessed, that's something that I guess I seeked and I wanted to be part of. But it was just, for me, it was a calling to be in the military,
Right.
but I wanted to have something challenging. I wanted to have a challenge in my life. And, when I looked at everything, I was like, man, that's going to give it to me. I'm going to be challenged in my life and it's going to give me something for me to do and have a better future because of that.
Right. And that was kind of my draw too, right? I kind of always knew that I wanted to do something involved in the military. I don't know why, it was just always in the back of my mind. And then when I got that opportunity to join the Marine Corps, to me, if I was going to do anything in the military, it's going to be the best, right? And everybody around me, all they talked about was how hard it was, and that just called to me. I said, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna jump off the deep end and get into the best service I possibly can. So for me, it was the best thing that could happen to me. For those people that know my story, know where I come from, it's definitely a 180 from the road I was heading. So for me, the Marine Corps saved my life. It kind of gave me an outlet, gave me structure, gave me all these things, because I didn't grow up with a male figure in the home, unlike you, so you saw your dad, you saw your dad with that example. And even though he was in the army, you kind of knew you wanted to mirror that in some kind of way, right?
In
But
some kind of way, I did, yeah. I
mm,
wanted to kinda mirror that and, have that kinda leadership in my life. Well, first of all, because it was the only thing that I knew.
exactly.
The only thing that I knew was the military lifestyle. So for me, that was something that I wanted to do. And
Mm,
believe it or not, before I even talked to the Marine Corps recruiter, it was my junior year of high school, and I went and talked to the Army.
right.
And then they were gonna send me to boot camp during the summer and
Mm,
then come back to high school and graduate. And man, I would have killed myself. I think because now, I've learned so much more.
right.
Not only the pride, but the way that individuals look at you, not only in the United States, but other countries.
Exactly.
You're a United States Marine. You're that devil dog, that Tufahunded. They see you as somebody in like awe when they look at you.
Exactly.
And to me, that's something I guess my wife says it the best because she says that when she ever hears somebody, thanking me for my service, she feels like a peacock. Her
Right.
feathers, her
Right.
feathers open up and she just spreads them out.
And I'm gonna tell you how much of a fan of the Marine Corps I was and I still am, right? Is everything about it perfect? Absolutely not. But nothing in life is perfect, right? Everything comes with its trials and tribulations, right? It's rite of passage, for lack of a better word. I used to be sitting at home in the Marine Corps, and I used to see a Marine Corps commercial come on, and I used to get like all full of pride. Like I couldn't even believe I was part of that organization. It just all the history, all the legacy, all the people that came before me, all the people that shaped me, that shaped you. It's a lot to uphold, right? But it's an honor at the same time. And I know you coming in the Marine Corps, you was already a young dad, right?
Yeah, I came into the Marine Corps when I was 18. My daughter was actually born when I was 17. She was
Okay.
born in 1995. She was born, and then that September, that's when I went to recruit training. So that kind of, I guess you could say, pushed me over the edge that
Right.
I needed to do something. And if I was going to do something, yeah, I'm just like you. It had to be the best. If
Exactly.
if it wasn't going to be the best, and I wasn't going to get challenged, why? Why am
Right.
I going to go do something if I'm not going to be happy about it?
No, absolutely. So talk to me about those early struggles about being a dad and having a daughter, and then at the same time trying to find your way in this Marine Corps, right? Because it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. So tell me about some of those trials and tribulations.
Oh man, when my daughter was born, she was born in Kentucky, in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So my daughter's name is Elizabeth
Mhm.
because of that. And being in high school and already having a kid, man, it was just a struggle because I had to go to school during the day. I came home for about 20, 30 minutes, and I had to go. I had a job.
Right.
I had to go work just to make sure that I had stuff to be able to provide for my daughter. And so it made it more rough, but at the same time it made me want to succeed even more in school to ensure that I was going to be able to do something after the fact once I graduated high school.
Right.
And I worked hard throughout those last couple of years that I was there. When I was getting ready to graduate from high school, my senior instructor there in JROTC actually applied for me for the JROTC scholarship to go to the University of Tennessee. And believe it or not, I was accepted to the University of Tennessee to go.
Oh wow.
But I chose to let that go because I needed to do something and provide something for my young family that I had at the time.
Sacrifice.
Oh yeah, I had to sacrifice something, but I would never change it. Never
Right.
change anything in the past.
And I think that's what a lot of people, especially civilians, right, don't understand about. Yeah, they thank us for our service, and I greatly appreciate it. But a lot of them don't understand the sacrifice that comes with that, especially being a young dad. Being you spend so much time away from your family, so much time away from your kids, but you have to accomplish the mission. And it's a great sacrifice. Yeah, you get a lot out of it at the same time. But man, it's a struggle, right?
Oh
It's a
yeah.
struggle to try to be a good dad, a good husband, especially for when you're young and you really don't know anything else. I know for me, it was a struggle, like just trying to balance everything. Finding myself in this new career where it's so much to uphold, so much honor, so much tradition that you have to uphold every day. And at the same time, you're trying to balance it with your family. Like, how was that for you?
Oh, it was rough. You know as well as I know, when you first come into the Marine Corps, here you are coming in as a very young private or PFC. Man, back in the day, our paycheck was like 300-400 bucks a month.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we had. We had $300 or $400 a month, and you have to buy baby formula, diapers, and all that stuff and everything to provide for them. And not to mention that, hey, you needed some kind of transportation, so now you have to do something about getting a car or doing something. And I think that's now when I look back at it, even when as a senior staff NCO, so many young Marines that I had to counsel because they ended up going to buy that Ford Mustang for 65% interest from the
Exactly.
dealership out there in Oceanside, California. And I understand they're doing it because they need a vehicle. I
Right.
mean, some of them are just not very bright,
Mhm.
but they need some kind of form to be able to take care of their families. And I think that's what gets a lot of young Marines in trouble when they
Exactly.
first come into the Marine Corps.
And it's not even specific to the Marine Corps, just all services, right? Like, you're young, you're away from home. A lot of them don't have that guidance, right? Because yeah, you have your staff NCOs and NCOs, but especially nowadays, a lot of them are your same age or just a couple of years older than you. So they really don't have a lot of life experiences, especially the way they promote now, right?
Yeah, right now the way they're promoting people, it's just like they're growing on trees because there's individuals with 4 years of active duty service, and some of them are already getting selected for staff NCO.
Right.
So I mean, really, when you look at it, and that was one of the main things that I focused on before I retired in 2015 was, they don't know anything. They
Right.
haven't gone through the experiences of learning things to ensure that they're going to be able to provide that leadership and guidance for those young Marines because they haven't seen a lot of things that were going on.
Exactly.
Now, for you and I, growing up, we saw a lot of things that occurred, and
Exactly.
we learned from those. And that's why I used to tell all my Marines, I'm like, hey, you know what? There is nothing that you can do that I haven't seen before.
Right. And not only Marines, my children, right? I tell my children that all the time because our children look at us now the way we are now, right? We're pretty much we're never a finished product, but we're way farther down the assembly line than they are, right? But
Oh yeah,
when they look at us, they don't understand that nothing is new under the sun. Like everything that you're doing, everything that you've done, I've done 100 times over, but it's so hard to get young kids, young Marines to understand, hey, learn from my experiences, not from your own mistakes, right? I heard a quote a while ago. It said, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. A fool learns from his own mistakes.
that is
And you and I have been the fool, but we've also been that smart person that's learned from other people's mistakes, right? Once we got older. And I
oh,
think there's not a lot of that going on right now. They haven't seen anything. They haven't done it, so they have no experience to pass on to these kids, you know?
no, it's true exactly what you're saying because I mean, the way I don't know if it's the way society is, and it's got to do a lot of the fact that now we have, and the internet is a big culprit of that because now that it grabs so many people's attention, and every time that I see that, and I look at everybody walking around with a cell phone, it always reminds me of the movie Wally. I don't know if you've seen Wally. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's a Disney movie, but
Oh,
watch
the robot Wally.
Wally. Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
robot
saw it. Yeah, yeah, I
Wall-E.
saw it. Yeah.
And all them people are freaking like massively obese in space, sitting in a chair just looking at their cell phones.
Right.
And I'm looking at a lot of people now. I'm like, man, that we're not far from that
Exactly.
because there's no people don't want to go exercise. They don't want to do anything like that. And the kids today is that's their life. If they
Exactly.
don't have internet, their life is broken. Their life is destroyed.
No, it is. It
You
is.
know, and as a parent, I could tell them, I think last summer we had a time where we lost internet for 3 days. We had
Oh,
no internet.
my son wanted to jump off the roof, didn't he?
My son was like, "Oh, what are we gonna do now?" I'm like, "Go get the board games.
Exactly.
Let's play some board games. Let's make a rubber band gun. Let's do something." We made little things in the house, and he's like, "You played with this when you were little?" I'm like, "Yeah, this was our entertainment.
Exactly.
This is
Exactly.
how we had fun because we had no cell phones, we had no
Exactly.
gaming systems, nothing like that."
And you came up at the same time as I did. Like TV went off at midnight, right? After midnight, everything it was poltergeist, right? It was the little static on the TV, and that was it.
Oh yeah.
These days, it's 20. They could stay at it 24 hours a day. Like they could stay plugged in to the internet, the phone, and that's different from us. Even parents, as leaders in the Marine Corps, it's always distractions, and I'm not saying we didn't have distractions when we was growing up, but I think it was a different form of distractions, when we was coming up.
You're absolutely correct with the struggles of young parents and everything, and it's there, and we see it all the time because things change so much,
Right.
especially right now the way society's going.
No, it is. And the one thing I try to explain to young kids, my kids, even kids that aren't mine, I try to explain to them that it's I don't envy the job of a parent nowadays, right? Because at least when my kids were young, I can expose them to things very slowly, right? But now with the way information flows, the minute your kid understands anything, you have to tell them everything.
Oh yeah.
Because you want to be the one to put it in front of them. You don't want them to get it from somewhere else because you don't know what other people are teaching them.
And internet, that's a big thing. I can, I can think of a story. I think it was about 2 months ago. My son, he's 13, so
Right.
he's at the age where he's learning and all that stuff and everything. But he calls me to his room and he's freaking out. I mean, he's like he saw a freaking ghost or something.
Right.
And he's like, Dad, I'm like, what? What's wrong? Like, I was watching YouTube and I clicked the link and it took me to a bunch of other links with a bunch of adult stuff on it. I'm like, let me see your phone. I mean, and
Right.
it went to some freaking heavy duty sites.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I got an email saying that I need to go to the link to watch this video, and I clicked on it. I'm like, dude, you can't click on stuff like that because it's gonna take you all kinds of weird places and stuff. I'm like, and I told him, like, look, this is gonna be between me and you, but I want you to make sure that you're careful not to do that. Like, I'm not gonna tell your mom that you're doing this stuff because I know you're not, but don't do it again.
Right.
And he's like, no, I won't. I'm like, yeah, of course I did tell my wife about it, but I told her what happened. And ever since then, though, he's very careful,
Right,
about what he does because he knows that he's not supposed to do certain things, and he knows that I can see his history for his internet visits and all that stuff and everything. So that's one thing that I think parents nowadays don't do very much. They don't watch and they supervise their kids of what they're doing.
exactly. And I was going to say that I think the biggest issue with parents nowadays, other than not having the experience, having kids very young, is a lot of these parents aren't engaged. A lot of these parents want to be their kids' friends, right? And listen, like my kids are older. Like my oldest daughter is 30. My other two kids are 29. So they're to the age where we can kind of have a friendship now, right? But when they was younger, there is no such thing as being friends with your kids. And even at 30, they know where the line is, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So you were lucky enough to be right there where your son could come to you and have that conversation, and you could guide him through that. With the way things are now, like parents are working 2-3 jobs, like their kids are raising themselves. The internet are raising these kids. So imagine if you weren't there, right? Imagine if you weren't there to answer your son's question. Ain't no telling how far the rabbit hole he would have gone.
Oh yeah.
I'm not beating parents up because I understand you have to work, you have to do all these things, but at the same time, when you're home, you need to have these conversations with your kids. You need to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Not a friend. They don't need a friend. They got plenty of those. They need a parent.
Oh yeah, definitely they do. They need a parent to be there to answer a question and guide them, give them that guidance because, if not, they're going to find it somewhere else.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
They're finding it somewhere else, especially like nowadays. I can remember. I don't even think that me growing up, I never got the sex talk from my parents.
I didn't either.
I never got. I figured that out on my own.
Right.
And I figured it out on my own, whatever. And now in today's society, the way it is now, you got to have that conversation with your kids at a very, very young age because
very young. Exactly.
They're going to see it on their cell phone, or somebody else is going to tell them because they saw it on their cell phone.
Right. And not only do you got to talk about the birds and the bees, you got to talk about the bees and the bees and the birds and the bees that want to be birds and the birds that want to be bees. And I'm not knocking anybody, right? Whatever your lifestyle is, live it.
Yeah, no.
I'm not against whatever you do. Whatever you do is your business. But what I'm saying is when you're raising these young kids, you have to have these conversations. You have to introduce them to all this stuff like very, very early and give it to them in a digestible way because ain't no telling how they'll react when they see it without your guidance. Just like the story about your son, like he can come to you. You're one of those kind of parents. He'll come to you. You're home. You're at the house. He come to you. You can ask you these questions. And I think that's missing from today's from this generation. Honestly, there are no more big mamas.
No, yeah, it is. And I think what it is a lot of, especially growing up in a military family or military lifestyle as a prior hat and a Marine gunnery sergeant, my mentality and the way that I communicated with people was not the best in the world when I retired. It was a one-way conversation. That's the way that it was. And, it's taking me years to understand and realize that, hey, you have to be approachable.
Yes.
If you're not approachable, your kids are not going to come and ask you these questions.
Absolutely.
They're going to be afraid to ask you because they're, oh, he's just going to get mad at me. And,
Right.
and I tried to explain, yes, I might get upset for a minute, but I'm going to help you to find a solution
Exactly.
to whatever you may be going on. We're going to figure it out together regardless. No matter what, we'll figure it out. And, and that's what I think, a lot of young parents, like you said, that's something that they don't have right now.
Exactly. And and you actually got into the next point that I wanted to make. Like my question to you was going to be, with your upbringing, with you being in the Marine Corps, your military experience, how has that shaped you as a parent?
Oh man, in a way, I think that my parenting skills, were a little, I want to say rough, because as a young Marine, the PFC Lance Corporal days, I was deployed all the time. So my other daughters, my daughter Elizabeth and Angelica, I was never home for them at all. I was always gone. I was home for a little bit, and then, whenever I was gone and I came back, and then their mother and I separated, and so they moved to Texas, and that was rough. And now with him, because now I'm retired. When I retired, he was 4 years old. So now it actually gives me the opportunity to work on my parenting skills because by no means am I perfect.
Right.
I'm close to it.
Yeah, that's what I say all the time. Yeah.
I'm
This
not
is what
perfect.
you're gonna get.
I'm almost there, but I'm not perfect. And I tell him all the time, like, look, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna make mistakes, and I will learn from my mistakes. And guess what? I will do the best that I can to not make that mistake again. Am I gonna do it? Probably, yeah. I'm probably gonna do it, but I'm gonna keep learning from them. And that's what I want him to do.
Nah, and I have the same story. When I actually got married, I married into already made family. My ex-wife already had a child, and then we had our child like right behind that. So I was 26 years old, brand new husband, parent of two already. So I hit the ground really running, man. And had no idea. Like I had no example. At least you had your mom and your dad. I had no example. I had my grandparents, but they're a different generation, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
the stuff that worked for them definitely wasn't gonna work for my generation. So I just had to figure it out, and just like you said, I feel like I was maybe a horrible parent. Not horrible, but I was just an uninformed parent for a very long time because I tried to use what I learned in the military to parent, and there's no way that was going to work. And I had daughters too, right? My first two kids were daughters, were girls, and I had all these ideas in my head of, okay, they're not going to do this, they're not going to do that. They're not dating until they're whatever, right? But one day I sat down and I started thinking, and I thought about all the girls that I used to date growing up. They maybe weren't the perfect example of what a young woman should be, right?
oh yeah,
And the one thing they all had in common was that they had very strict parents. They couldn't do anything. So the moment they got a little bit of freedom, they were out of there, right? They just tried to experience everything they could because they hadn't done it. So slowly I started like letting understanding that I need to let my daughters talk to me. They need to be able to come to me with stuff. I need to be able to give them freedom. So what I started to do was everything was age appropriate, right? They couldn't paint their nails till they were this age. They couldn't do whatever. So it was age appropriate to me, right? So by the time they got a little the freedom on their own, they were used to it. They knew how to handle it. And I'm
right.
not saying that was the perfect solution, or maybe that doesn't work for everybody, but that's what worked for me and my family.
Yeah, I think for me, like I said, my two daughters, since I really wasn't there, and then they left to Texas when they were 4 and 3, so they left very very young. So I really didn't have a say in their upbringing and what they could do, couldn't do when they were young. But I was the same way. I'm like, there ain't no damn way that they're gonna freaking date. They're not gonna do this till they're 30. When they're 30, and then maybe I'll let them date. You know,
Exactly.
and that's not the right way to go about it. And
Not at all.
but that's something that I have to learn on my own, just like you did.
Let's switch gears a little bit. So you talked about your kid's mom and you and them not working out. Talk about how difficult it is it being in the military and trying to fill that role as a husband, right? Especially when you're trying to figure it out yourself, right? Talk about how difficult that transition is, like trying not only being a father, but then trying to fulfill the roles as a husband and understanding what that takes.
Being a husband and being a dad in the military, it is very very rough. Especially when you first come in, you're young.
Yeah.
You're just learning. You're learning that you're out of high school and you're coming in. Like for me, I came into the Marine Corps when I directly out of high school. So, we still didn't do anything. And then being a husband is whatever. I'm there. Back then it was just coming home, getting some, going back to work, getting some, and that was my life. That was
Exactly.
the life of a husband,
Right.
and especially during the time that I came into the Marine Corps, my staff NCOs used to always tell me especially when the Marines wanted to get married very, very young, they used to always tell me like, "Hey, if the Marine Corps wanted you to have a wife, you would have got one to supply.
We'll issue it to you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we're gonna issue you one." And so that was the mentality that we had back then. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard being a husband because you're not really there, and it takes a very, very strong commitment to make your relationship work.
Exactly.
For me, it took me 3 times. I was divorced. I'm divorced twice, and
Mhm.
I'm on my 3rd wife right now. So, I mean, I say that like it's a freaking thing, but no, it's not. I'm on my 3rd wife now. I'm happy.
Right.
Probably the happiest that I've ever been, and maybe it's because I'm not on active duty anymore.
Exactly.
Maybe it's because I'm actually home, and and it's rough. Whenever you are home, especially on active duty, it's different.
It is.
It's different because yeah, you're home, you're happy for a little bit, and you get angry, you get mad at each other, and you leave, go to the field.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And then come back and you make up, it's all good, it's happy, and then you get tired of each other. Oh, I'm going to the field. So in a way that's a good way, but it's not a healthy relationship.
No, not at all. Not
You
at
know,
all. And I can mirror that. I understand what you're saying so much. I get, like I said, I was married very, very young. My first attempt at being in a monogamous relationship was my marriage, right? So I had no clue how to do it. Kids right off the bat, right? I had no idea what love really was, right? I was married to my ex for a very, very long time, but I made a lot of mistakes. I had my son while I was married from someone else, right? Just being very immature, very young, and it took a toll. It really took a toll. And like you said, when you're at the duty, you go in and out of honeymoon phase, right? Because you're with them for a couple of months, and then you go to the field for a couple of months, or for a month or two, and then you come back and it's a newlywed. And then right when things start getting bad again, boom, you're in the field again, or you're on deployment. So it's easy to kind of mask these
issues.
a very unhealthy relationship. It's easy to mask it because you're in and out so much. And it's very hard, man. Like, and people ask, well, you were a Marine, you should have had, you should be committed to your marriage. What about your values? Honor, courage, commitment, all these things, right? Yeah, that's easy to say when you know better, but when you don't know any better, you're
Yeah,
just surviving. And a lot of times, the wife doesn't. She's very young as well. I know my ex-wife and I were the same age, so we were both trying to figure it out. And like you said, once I retired we were forced to sit and kind of, man, we realized like, hey, what are we doing?
Mhm.
What are we doing here? Like, we were both miserable, but we were just together because we're just used to it. We're just used to this dysfunction. You know what I'm saying?
It was convenient for us to be together,
Exactly.
and that's what made our relationship, work.
Yeah. Yeah, but once you know better, once you find yourself out of the Marine Corps and really kind of learning yourself, because the Marine Corps is very regimented, as you know, right? It's very regimented. You're going to be doing every Monday through Friday. You know what you're going to be doing. But then when you get some time and you really start to get to be around each other and realize just how much distance has grown in between, man, and it's a hurtful feeling, man, when you realize like you don't even know this person that you spend half your life with.
Oh
You know,
yeah, definitely.
because just like like in the Marine Corps, the mission, it's all about the mission. Your family is secondary. And I know that sounds very, people that weren't in the military probably won't understand that, but the mission is everything. Above your family, above everything. Yeah, you give them what you can, but at the end of the day, guess what? When that deployment comes around, you out of there.
Yeah, if you can remember, what did they always tell us? It's God, country, Corps.
Or exactly.
That's what it is. Where's the family in that? There's no family, and so that was our mentality. And I guess a lot of people say, "Oh, you're a Marine, you were brainwashed when you first came into the Marine Corps." No, that's not the case. It's just that we're fulfilling the mission, and we're going to do whatever it takes to finish that mission, no matter what it is.
Absolutely, mission above all, right? And that's not a Marine Corps specific thing, like I said, because I don't want everybody to think that, oh, this is just the way the Marine Corps is. No, every service is pretty much like that in some shape or fashion, right? Maybe not as intense as we did it, but everybody has to sacrifice some time with the family in order to accomplish this mission. And if you didn't, you weren't very successful.
Nope, you're right.
And I'm a firm believer you can't serve two masters, right? And I think being married in the Marine Corps, and once again, I'm not saying it can't be done, because I know a lot of people that spend their entire Marine Corps career married. Yeah, they had their ups and downs, but they still hung in there, right? So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult. What do you think about that?
No, it's very demanding. You're absolutely right. It's very demanding because here I am working from zero dark 30 to zero dark 30 every single day.
Exactly.
And I'm not home. And one thing that my wife helped me realize is that, when I was getting closer and closer to retirement, she's like, hey, once you're gone, nobody's going to care about you.
Yes.
Nobody's going to care about what you did or this and that and everything else. You're just going to be gone and they're going to move to somebody else. That's just the way that it is. And I never realized that, but she was very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I listened to her because she was right. Because then I started making more time for me.
Right.
Making time for me to take care of all the medical issues, all that stuff and everything else to make sure that the family was going to be taken care of once I retired.
And that's something as a Marine that I never imagined that the Marine Corps didn't love me as much as I loved it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I volunteer for every extra duty. If nobody wanted to do it, I'll do it. I sacrifice everything for the Marine Corps, but not understanding that the Marine Corps is a business. It's an organization,
Yes.
Right? You're a cog in a machine, and that's not a bad thing, right? That's the way all organizations work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you fall to the wayside, guess what? They'll just replace that piece and keep it moving, as they should, right? Because that's why the Marine Corps and all these services and all these big companies have been around for so long, because it's plug and play, right?
Oh yeah.
You take them to a certain point, and then once you can't do anymore, then they'll put somebody else in there to do it, right?
Definitely.
But when you're in it, you can't see it like that. Like, this is your way of life. Like, it has to get done, and it has to get done right now, and forget what happens to everything else, And I think that was one of my biggest realizations when I got out. Like, wow, like they're not gonna. After about a week, people stopped calling me. Right? Like, you use your phone constantly ringing. Hey, Gunny, what do we do? Hey, Gunny, we need this, we need that, we need that. But when you gone, hey man, you're a memory, bro. Like, they move on to the next.
No, that's very true. Because people stop calling you. I mean, right now, I still got Marines that they do call me, especially all the ones from the last deployment that we did in Afghanistan. All of us became so close, and they still call me all the time, just because it kind of helps all of us with dealing with everything that we went through in that deployment. But yeah, once you're gone, that's it. All the commanders, they're like, hey, just reach out to me if you need anything. I'm here.
Right.
They're gone. They're not there anymore.
Right. And let me clarify, right? Because I don't want to make it seem like people don't like. Yes, the people that your brothers, the people that you are close. You'll always be like you and I, right? We haven't seen each other in years, but we still pick up the phone and call. Like, if I need something, or if I have a question, I know I can pick up the phone and call you. I know if you have the same thing, you can call me. So you always have those relationships that never go away, right? But I'm talking about as a whole, like, you feel like you're part of the team. That part goes away.
Oh yeah, it's gone. That camaraderie that you had together as a team, doing everything together, that's gone. That's completely gone. And as you get, I don't like saying getting older. I rather say I get more seasoned in life.
Exactly. I'm vintage. I'm vintage now.
There you go. Yes. You go through all that stuff and everything, and all those Marines that you had or that you knew when you were on active duty.
Right.
Slowly they're starting, to go away. Unfortunately, they're not there anymore. And man, we're becoming dinosaurs. Is what I say. We're part of the dinosaur crew that dealt with everything else that we had to deal with, and it is rough. It is rough to deal with the fact that I'm replaceable. Once I'm gone, that's it. They're going to fill my spot, and they're going to do their thing, continue to move forward, and they don't even care about you anymore.
And me, when I was in the Marine Corps, I felt like nobody could do what I did. Right? Like, that's the mentality you have to have, right? Like, can't nobody do this like I do it, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you remember how I was when I first came over to Romeo Battery when I was in Sierra Battery. I came over there, and nobody could touch me anyway. That's my mentality, and that's the way that I ran everything.
That's why you have to.
Yeah, I did everything the best that I could, and I think it was before we deployed to Iraq. Almost everybody from Sierra Battery came over to Romeo.
Yeah.
So it was like Sierra Battery Plus. We were over there in Romeo, so all of us worked together because we knew how to work together, and we're going to make it the best that we can, because that's just the way that we are. We're very competitive as Marines.
Very. And I'm gonna tell you, you and I both was on the drill field, and actually we met after I came out the drill field, and in Romeo Battery before we deployed, man, and that environment right there is dog eat dog, right? So I was fresh off of, head first in it, like so it's definitely that kind of challenging environment. Steel sharpens steel. So the Marine Corps is like that. A lot of most units are like that, and I loved it. I loved it, and I wouldn't change anything about it, man.
Oh, neither would I. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Units are one way, but when you're out there doing the B build, especially the drill field, man, everybody's for themselves basically.
Yeah,
You're for yourself, getting things done and everything else. And again, same thing when I went to the drill field. I was the same way. I wanted to give it my 110% because I wanted to be sure that everybody that I put through recruit training met my standards, not the Marine Corps standards. I wanted to meet my standards. And
Yep.
was that the right way to be? No, it's not, because again, you're just a piece of the puzzle when you graduate recruit training. That's all you are.
Yep.
You're not going to be the best of the best, whatever, nothing. And once you're gone off the drill field, they're still going to continue to
Yep.
develop those young Marines, even if you're not there anymore. Nobody cares how you did it no more.
And for my listeners out there that don't know what the drill field is, all we're talking about is Marines that actually train Marines. If you guys seen the movie Full Metal Jacket, it's not a great depiction of what drone instructors do, but you get the idea, right? So we actually train Marines to be Marines. That's the duty we're talking about.
Speaking of that, movies and everything, have you already seen Ears Open, Eyeballs Click?
I have not. Good.
Okay. Well, it was filmed down there with Charlie Company when I was down the drill field. When I was down there, Charlie Company, the senior drone instructor Gunner Sergeant Thompson, he was one of the Marines. He's artillery.
Okay.
Artillery guy. And
you see, I got the shirt on today, right?
Yes. I see. I know. I was gonna get all motored out for you two and everything else, but I'm like, you know what? I haven't shaved, so I'm not gonna get motored out.
Yeah. Me neither. I just threw the shirt on.
Oh yeah, no, but yeah, definitely. If for those of you guys that haven't seen it, take a look at it. Look at it. It's not the best depiction of the Marine Corps either, because it was produced by the Italian mafia there on recruit training. They're the ones that are in charge of the barber shop. That's what we call them.
Right.
Italian mafia. They're the ones that produced that movie, a little documentary. It's not bad, but take a look at it. Kind of gives you more of a little insight of what's going on. Of course, it's PG-13. Is not, naturally what.
Yeah, you'll never get the full story unless you were there.
Oh yes,
I definitely appreciate you. Coming on the podcast, telling us your story. My podcast, I try to talk about parenting. What it was like. Everybody had their struggles, right? Whatever career they had, but you and I, we share the Marine Corps. We share some of the same struggles, in parenthood and being married, being married and all these things, right? But before I let you get out of here, I got a couple of things for you. So I want you to tell me the one thing you're most proud of being a parent, and the one thing you're most proud of being a Marine.
Oh yeah, look at that! I got crickets going in my brain housing group. Well, I guess that to me, the most thing that I'm proud of being a parent is the relationship that I have with my kids now. That I'm able to have a loving relationship and be a role model for them to, grow up and be a little bit better in society. So that I'm really proud of that now, and that I'm proud of the fact that my family has come closer now because of what I learned in the Marine Corps. But now that I'm out of the Marine Corps, and as far as the proudest thing that I'm proud of the Marine Corps, I'm gonna give you my list. Of course, the first of the fact was the fact, I was proud when I graduated recruit training.
Exactly.
I was ecstatic at the fact that I graduated recruit training. And besides that, the very next thing that comes to mind for me to be proud of was the day that I earned that campaign cover. When I was able to put that campaign cover on my head, walk across that stage, and be known as a Marine Corps drone instructor, which I'm going to be for the rest of my life.
Yes, sir.
And then
don't lose it. Never lose it.
Never going to lose it. And then, ultimately the greatest thing, the most thing that I'm proud of, I guess, is the fact that I accomplished my career into the Marine Corps, and I was able to retire and, hopefully leave a good mark on the other Marines that worked underneath me, and taught them leadership and to allow them to be better successful in life and better human beings in society.
Listen, man, I saw you. I didn't spend a lot of your career with you, but I spent enough time to know what kind of leader you are, what kind of Marine you still are, and what kind of person you are, man. And I'm honored to have you as a friend. I'm honored to have you as a comrade. And yeah, man. Like I said, I just appreciate it. Let the people know, because you also have a podcast. I want you to shout out your podcast and share any social media handles that you have. How can the people get a hold of you?
Oh, you can get a hold of me on any type of social media outlet that's out there. My TikTok name is gunny.signs. You can go on there. My podcast name is The Quarter Deck with Gunny Signs. And it's a weekly podcast that I put on there. And you can find my podcast on any of the podcasting applications that are out there. I put it out there mostly through Spotify, but you can find it anywhere. Just simply Google it and you'll be able to find it on there, as well as the YouTube channel, The Quarter Deck with Gunny Signs, and do have some video podcasts that are going on there, and they're becoming a little bit more frequently. So you guys can go on there, and you can always send me a message on my Facebook page. Same thing, The Quarter Deck with Gunny Signs. Send a message out there and everything for those Marines that are out there that maybe want to get more information, not just about the Marine Corps, but talk about everything that's going on in society today, dealing with the Marine Corps and changes or anything to deal with all that stuff. And especially for those of you guys that are getting out or gotten out, I talk a lot about the VA benefits. Talk about how easy it is to apply for these benefits, how to do it, how to go about that. And I've had many Marines send me emails and stuff, and they need assistance, and we walk through it. We walk through the process to get them to do that. So that's basically what my podcast is about, and everything that we talk about, and everybody enjoys listening to.
Listen, I've checked it out a couple of times. I've also been a guest on it. It's an amazing podcast, a lot of good information. Definitely check it out. You will not be disappointed. And I'm gonna tell you, for you guys that have retired or have just gotten out and are struggling with trying to get your benefits, listen, man, like you earned those benefits. Nobody's giving you anything. Because I know when I retired, I felt like I was asking for a handout, and that's definitely not the way to look at it. You earned that. I don't care if you spend 10 minutes in the Marine Corps. You earned it. So go get it, and don't be discouraged, man. So I definitely commend you for doing that. That's an amazing thing that you're doing, and keep it up. But also, you're a photographer, correct?
Yes, I'm a photographer. I'm a graduate from the Academy of Art University. I graduated with my associates and bachelor's in photography and lighting techniques, and I just graduated with my master's degree in communications and media technologies. So that's what got me into a lot more media and doing a lot more stuff with video and drone footage and stuff like that and everything. So it keeps me busy. And guess what? I use my VA benefits to get my whole entire education.
Exactly, as did I. And you could tell he's a video lighting guy, because look at his lighting and look at mine, right? I need to upgrade, but we'll talk about that later. We'll discuss that in a future episode, right?
Like I tell you, hey, if you need help, I'm gonna break it down Barney style.
And that's what I need. And that's what I need. But hey, man, I definitely appreciate you joining the podcast, man. For all you listeners out there, I'm on all social media sites, Talks with Pops Podcast. I also have a YouTube page, Talks with Pops Reloaded. This video will be on there. The audio version, you could download it on Podbean or anywhere you get your audio podcast from. Please join us, join the community. Once again, follow my friend, GySgt Saenz, my good friend, man. Please join the community, man. Once again, Saenz, I love you, bro. Thanks for doing this, and I wish you nothing but success.
You as well.
All right, Talks with Pops. We out of here.